Ready, team?
Ready. Action activate.
Oh, I was just rocking out to the hot jams of the Action Activate theme song. Who am I? I'm Gazbot. What is this? Action Activate. And if I'm Gazbot and this is Action Activate, well, then with me as always is...
It is I. It is the big dog. I am also rocking out with my comic out because today we're reviewing issue 5 of MMPR TMNT 2, issue 5, the finale of this second series. And let me tell you, before we fully dive in, it was a good one.
Agreed. I mean, the whole series has been good. So it did not disappoint, the ending. My concern last week or when we reviewed issue 4 was that I was like, oh, there's only one more issue left. And it was a hair rushed. It wasn't terribly rushed. I think it could have maybe had one more issue. Not like we needed a whole other issue after this, but a few pages spread throughout the whole thing. I think 6 issues would have been nice. That being said, it wasn't horribly rushed. And minor spoilers, well, spoilers for the whole thing, but jumping to the end, they did leave some stuff that wasn't resolved, like, hey, maybe we'll do another series. So there's that. And one of those things is something you were talking about last week, which was potentially the morphers from Dimension X and like why the colors were where they were. Now, they're not necessarily going to dive into that, but it was addressed that issue, that subject is not over. That subject is going to be dealt with more if they get another series, which they want.
Yeah. Before we dive into that part, though, we've given our initial impressions. We kind of talked about how this is open-ended, which I really appreciate. Yep. Before we dive into the comic itself, how do you like your cover?
I like it. Last week, I know you got that one. That's a good one. Last week, we had talked about how I wanted to get the retro Japanese version and I couldn't and stuff. For this issue, I just bought the first one I saw. Like, I think they may have had one other, but I just got the Dan Mora one. I didn't even look into what other ones there were. I was just like, I'm at the comic store. It's here. I'm just going to get it because I don't want to not have it for this review. And I think every single one I got has been the Dan Mora cover, which is fine by me because I like his art. And this I like it because this is my favorite version of both teams in this story. So, and it's my favorite version of Casey. So it's like, yeah, this is, I don't know what else was out there, but there's a chance I might have picked this anyway because I
don't remember for issue 5. I remember looking at all of the covers though, and issue 4 was the only one. I'm like, if you're going to get a different cover, it might be this one, which was the homage cover.
I know for this one, I just realized because the thumbnail, which people have seen, I usually try to grab a cover that isn't one that we have, if possible. And it was Shredder and Lord Draken, which never appears in the story, but that was one of the covers. I still would have picked this, but that, matter of fact, again, jumping to the end, because of that cover, I thought maybe Shredder was going to be talking to Lord Draken at the end, but he was not.
Yeah. The thing I like about this issue is the first page, I actually paused before I started the story. You open it up and you just see a great splash page of the Turtle Rangers, the Dimension X Turtle Rangers, and I'm like, man, just everything about and okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was intentional or not, but do you notice that Leo's swords look like the Darksaber?
I can see why you say that. Here's my guess. I don't think it was intentional in terms of like, let's make this a shout out to Star Wars, but maybe Dan Mora referenced it or just knows it and it just sort of came out that way. I did not notice it at the time though. No.
Well, looks awesome. Because
I like the splash. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Darksaber. We have energy swords from Halo, intentionally or not. And then I need to look at the other 2 weapons to see if there's any
some
other
sort of reference,
intentional
maybe,
or unintentional reference.
I don't know if I noticed the bandana straps coming out of the helmets last time. I don't know if I noticed or not, but I like it. because it's so. Oh, the other thing I like too, and it's subtle, but you can see they still have 3 fingers in their hands, but on their boots, there's just a little indentation showing that they still have.
That is good. I didn't notice that
toes.
either.
Yeah, and it also fits like the ninja, like the tabby shoes they wear, so it fits both ways. I also like they go, the Go-Go Dimension X Rangers from Mikey, which is appropriate, and then Raph is like, is that really what we're doing? So it's like the perfect. Here's a dumb joke, and here's someone being like, that's a dumb joke, and that to me is perfect. This is my one of 2 complaints about, not about the story or whatever, but like technical complaints. I have one of 2 technical complaints this issue. Do you know what it is? I'll give you a hint. It's not really the art. It's actually.
Is it the way that the boxes are with the splash page?
The boxes. I'm not criticizing the way the page is laid out necessarily. Putting insert boxes can work. That's all fine. It's the way the bubbles are done. Now, possibly because the way the art was, that is how it happened. But if you know how to read comics traditionally, you would normally go, you go left to right, top to bottom, unless you're being led there specifically. And so it's sort of the flow. It's hard to do this backwards. Goes here. The next one I want to read is here, but that's not where you're supposed to go. And I figured that out and I went, oh, okay. So I go here and then I go down, but you're not supposed to go there. You're supposed to go over there. So it's bad bubble caption layout as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Similar to my complaint last time, which was art flow. This is like dialogue flow. Cause did you have that issue or is that just me?
No, I also have been reading a little bit of manga recently. So I'm used to
jumping around.
Yeah. Like thinking, like as I'm getting ready to read something of like, where am I supposed to go next? Like actually speaking of Ranger stuff, I sat down the other day and read a bunch of Go Ranger manga.
Oh, wow. I forgot you got that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was cool. I like it. I plan on finishing it, but I sat down and I was like, oh, I'm looking at stuff on my bookshelf. I popped it open and I got like 80 pages in. I'm like, oh, I have stuff to do. So I plan on going
That's
back.
Good though if you accidentally blow through 80 pages. Like
yeah, it was really cool. But yeah, so to your question, I'm used to like, okay, with manga you got to do it differently. So like that and this, I think I was still just like,
well, yeah, and I've seen worse examples. Again, this is one of those things where there's so little that it bothers me that it's just more noticeable. And I figured it out, but it could have been placed differently where it leads the eye instinctively as opposed to having to like, oh wait, no, but that was one of 2 minor quibbles with this issue.
Next page on a positive note, Casey and Rita look awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like beyond great.
Beyond great.
I don't know what it is, but the more I stared at Rita, the more I'm like, why is this just like, why is this the first time we're seeing this kind of design like revamped?
Right. Well, part of it is nostalgia and having to kind of keep the status quo of what people expect to see. But I said last time I really like this version, and it's modern, but it's not at all because it looks like a 70s or 80s like toku villain or anime villain. Like so, it fits her style, but it's a modernized version of an even older look than the original Rita had. If that makes sense.
But yeah, the power of Dan Mora is all I chalked it up to.
Yeah, it's very good.
And that Casey like so good.
Yeah. Well, the new suit, like the beat up suit is like this. That's this, like I said before I said last week, that's the suit he should have had all along, but they got us there. And I'm like, okay with how they got us there.
Yeah.
I also love on the next page, the image of the huge dragon. Like I can't play this flute.
Yeah. Once I saw the shadow morpher, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. So love that. Love getting Ranger Shredder back. And also just his back and forth with Tommy where he's like, why would you ever not morph?
Because he's like, I need to be powerful to control things. And that's how he thinks. So he's like, it's ridiculous that you would ever power down.
And then Tommy's like, I enjoyed the restroom.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so Shredder calls the Dragon Zord. And we get a good shot. Actually, I didn't even notice this, but it's not exact. But like it's almost like Shredder's bursting out of the energy, and then the dragon's bursting out. They almost have like the same pose and the same kind of energy splashes. Cool. Yeah.
The one thing I thought of on the next page, we see Shellhead come in. I'm like, they're combining. This is a parent story. They're combining.
Yeah, you're right. And I foolishly didn't think of that until like they started talking about it. I'm like, oh right, yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember what happened. They took Zordon's like essence and ran away, and I guess this sort of happened off screen where they're like, okay, we got like they never actually really explained this. It's just sort of like a cavalry showing up moment, right?
Yeah, my understanding is when the command center got raided by Krang, they like tucked Zordon away. He's obviously like messaging through Alpha, but
Right.
yeah, they took some stuff, kind of ran away, and then everybody's kind of fighting the good fight.
Something, yeah, that makes sense. Something I just noticed in the art while we were talking. In look at in the visor, there's a reflection of Krang's face. Oh, you noticed that first time? I didn't notice that.
I did, yeah.
I was looking at the glowing blade and like the stop, like the deliberate action. But that's pretty cool. I also like the way they're showing Shredder in the command center, kind of doing those overlays. Like I always think that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I thought again, like when Krang came in at the end of the last issue with the Megazord, I'm like, oh, he built an evil Megazord. No, he took the Megazord and then made it evil in himself in it, which I actually like a lot better.
Which also begs the question, because at the end, the Megazord is in rough shape. What does that mean? You know, and they're, you know, in the regular series, nothing. But this is its own little reality series, you know. What, you have a theory?
I mean, I think I'll tell you, remind me my theory at the end.
Okay. The next is we have the fight with Evil Casey and Rita and the Dimension X Turtle Rangers. I like the idea of this fight. This is my least favorite art in the book. It's not terrible, but it's it's like a little bit rushed and a little bit unclear, and it's like all this action, and it's just like 10 panels, and it's kind of a little bit muddy, and it's not completely unclear, but it just like I feel like I don't know, it just feels like rushed a little bit.
So I understand your critique there. This 2-page spread actually had some of my favorite moments in the series because of two things.
Right.
One, Rita got punched in the face, which I feel like we never see.
That's true.
And it's something like, I don't know why we don't, because she fights multiple times throughout like the comics and the series and whatever, but she gets punched in the face.
She's more magic though, so like the idea of a physical attack is just weird, like for her.
But even like, you know, looking at the Once and Always special with Robo Rita, she didn't get punched in the face, she got blasted in the face.
Yeah, it's true. That is a good moment. Well, here's the thing, I liked the fight overall. I'm not saying I didn't like it, and there's some good dialogue and some good moments, but I feel like it just needed a little bit more room to breathe, I think.
Yeah. I also like Casey charging in with his sickle coming down. I don't know why, but just that whole sequence I really liked in that aspect of the fight.
I like it. I think it could have been visually represented a little bit better if there was a little bit more, like another page. I like the art on the next 2 pages better, like the close-up of Rita's eye and stuff I think is really nice. And I love this moment where Casey's gonna like beat on Raph, and he's like, "It's okay, dude. You know, I know it's not you, brother." And like, oh, that breaks your heart a little bit. You know, it's like, it's so good.
I didn't fully understand the next panel, but I kind of just rolled with it, where his eyes are still glowing evil, and I'm assuming we're using the power of friendship to break this spell, but it's not fully explained.
Agreed. And again, I think this is a thing where if we had 2 more pages, one would have made that fight a little more, and this would explain. My best guess, same thing, is that he's evil, and Raph's like, just do what you got to do, and he's still evil, but he's like, power of friendship. And I think what he's doing is breaking his favorite hockey stick. Because remember, they talked in one of the other issues about Tommy and how they broke his sword, and that like freed his mind. And it was a thing where he's like, yeah, but I'm not mind controlled. So I think it's supposed to be a callback to that. And because he's clearly breaking something in his hand. So I'm thinking that that's what was happening there.
To me, and we'd have to look at the art specifically, but I feel like this sickle in this issue is more like evil looking, for lack of a better term.
I agree, but look, in his, again, the art is not the clearest, but he's right here, he's holding the sickle, right? That's what's in his hands. Then in the close-up, it's a piece of wood he's breaking. I'm thinking it's sort of like when they power down, they have their normal clothes underneath, and the sickle was like one of his hockey sticks powered up, is what I'm thinking. So then he's like, no, it's just, I'm breaking this. And it turns out
I thought, and again, anybody else's thoughts, because this is all for interpretation, put it in the comments. I thought off panel in issue 4, Rita's like, hey, I know that you were double crossing us, and like, I'm not stupid. Off screen, she sort of darknesses, but with his hockey stick, Casey, and that's what she did to his hockey stick, and him breaking it breaks the spell, even though you're right, but this is also now like a hexed item potentially.
Right. I agree, and that's the headcanon, and that's the explanation, but this comes back to where one more issue could have filled out some of these things a little bit more clearly.
What I think and what I hope is that Ryan Parrott planned on 6. They said you get 5, and he went okay, and then just made the most of it.
I think that's possible. I think it's also possible he got 5 and stuff happens, and nothing's perfect. Like again, these are nitpicks of an otherwise great story, and it's. If he was if he wanted 6 and he got 5 and that's what happened, fine. If he got 5 and like these are the minor imperfections, that's also fine. And then
when Casey breaks the spell, I love just seeing all that. This is, I think, when we reviewed the first series, one of my critiques was I didn't like the turtles without their helmets on. But with this, I actually kind of liked it in the Ranger X suits with their helmets off. I think it actually looked a lot better for some reason.
I agree. And I think it's because the Ranger X suits look less like traditional Power Ranger suits, and they look almost more like suits of space armor or something, where it kind of makes it pull my helmet off, makes just like, it just works a little bit better. Maybe it's the black coming up their neck instead of the white or something. I don't know.
That whatever that cannon is on the next page that Krang uses is cool. Boom. So that part's cool. This part of the fight when they're about to take stuff down, I have mixed feelings about the mutated Rangers coming in and fighting. I didn't dislike it. It's just this kind of trope in either Power Rangers or other media I don't always love of, here's the little guys trying to fight the big guy. It's like, nah, I don't think you have enough power to do enough damage there personally, but I don't know.
I agree, but I think the idea was a distraction. They never thought, hey, we're going to win this fight. They're just sort of like, either we're buying time for the Zords to get up, or we're buying time for people to escape. We're just heroes and we don't give up. But I also like that they had a plan, because you can see they definitely attack, and looks like they're intentionally breaking like the plastic glass force shield, whatever that is. And then when then Kim and Tommy come in with the fire blast, you can see they actually did hurt Krang.
Yep.
So I think they were buying time, but I think they also had a plan to use what they had available to do damage.
Yeah. And then Ninja Steel to me, they combined, and it looked. Again, going nitpicky, I think this is fine. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. I think it's fine.
I think it's fine too. When I saw that it has the shell on the back, I thought that helped it actually, because it looks a lot like Dragon Zord but more humanoid.
Yes,
as opposed to part turtle. The shell helps it a lot. I think if you could see the shell more from the front, that would help, and it would like bulk it out a little bit more.
I think also
I like the idea of it, and I like the image with like the blueprints and stuff. Like the actual way they executed it is fine.
Well, there's 2 problems I had. One, I assumed this was going to happen, so in my head I thought it was going to be Dragon Zord in the combined mode, like we see it in the show, where then Shellhead was going to be the limbs, and it would be that like chess piece in yada yada yada. 2, I really liked the Shellhead Megazord from the last series.
Right.
And Dan Mora did a cover, I think it was issue 4, where it showed it and it looked awesome. And nothing against this, but like in my head, I was probably unfairly comparing the 2, and I just really like that.
I'm also looking at it took me a minute to realize what I'm looking at here, but I thought the dragon head was sort of like the eyes and the head. And then under it was sort of Shellhead just kind of smushed in there. It was like then I realized, Shellhead is supposed to be the head and like the cockpit and the eyes. And this is like the helmet on top.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked it if the dragon face was sort of the face, and then the Shellhead, the top slipped over. So it was like ninja top on the dragon mouth. I think that would
like one of those big old hats like they sometimes use.
Like who sometimes uses?
Like in the turtle stuff. I think there's like a figure coming out where they have one of those like straw hats.
Oh, Usagi Jimbo has one.
Yes,
no, I don't mean necessarily that here. I'm going to do like a really quick. All I mean is this is the worst drawing I've ever done in my life. Like, so this is the dragon part, and this is the Shellhead
way
part.
Closer. There, much better.
See, so this down here is all dragon, and this is all Shellhead, and then the fin sticks out. So it looks
okay, yeah.
So it almost looks like a ninja mask on a dragon. Is kind of what I was hoping for.
Yeah. Again, there's nothing wrong with this design. Our headcanon just got in the way.
Yeah. But I also like, they rip apart the Megazord and Shred. I love the speech where Shredder, like Krang's like, I never should have tied myself to a coward like you, Rocket Socket. And he's like, I gave you nothing and I gave you arms and legs and I'll take them away. And he does. And he leaves them in there. He's like, like, it was pretty vicious. And it's cool because it wasn't just like, I'm fighting an enemy. Like they had a relationship and it was like weirdly personal.
Yeah.
You know? You had a thought about this destroyed Megazord.
Yes. So as the rest of the issue progressed, I had these thoughts and they kind of grew more. So right here, from the get-go, Shredder's like, I'm helping you now. I'm very clear that I'm helping you now.
Yes.
Now is the time that I am helping you, and then I will not. It is only now. So,
and he also has made it clear he's an enemy of the Rangers as well now, not just the Turtles.
You is the Ranger Turtle team.
Yeah.
So he, with the power of Alpha and Zordon, destroy their Megazord. Like, just straight up wreck it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, a little off-putting at first, okay. And then, still overly trusting him. The day is saved, the Mutant Rangers are helping save the city, yada, yada, yada. Bulk and Skull have their great thing with April, and then they lock away in the space dumpster, Krang and Rita, and they're like, oh, we'll eventually come out, which I believe. Yes. And then Shredder's there and even makes a note of, this was enlightening. Good to know that you guys have this. This is a good thing to know. Great, I'm leaving. And then,
I took the enlightening part not just of their prisons, but based on what he says later about this wider scope of the world and dimensions and things and power. I think that led to him being like more ambitious and understanding that he was looking at the game board too small.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think with this also, he's like, oh, you can lock people away in like a can forever? Like that's a thing you just have ready? Yeah. Okay, good. Noted. I definitely won't remember the route back here for a later time. I see
what you're saying. I think I didn't put as much emphasis on the literal cans they were looking at that moment as your maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe that'll be a huge plot point in the next book. I just took it more as like Megazords, powers, dimensional stuff. I'm now keyed into all this whole new world is how I took it. But maybe you're right. Maybe,
Yeah, because I took the enlightening part as since he's worked with them and kind of been like semi-mentored by them for better or worse, he's like, okay, here's how you use the powers properly. Here's how you use the technology properly. And here's how you use, their other equipment. And like, I was just using ninjas and robots and big old dumb mutants. Right. And kind of like you said, there's all this other stuff that I could try to steal and might help me out a little bit.
Well, but you said with the destroyed Megazord specifically, you had a theory that you wanted to say now.
Oh, yeah. I think it's very easy to transition this into like season 1.5, season 2 of like, oh, remember when Shredder like totally destroyed our Megazord and we didn't really think about it? Now he's stealing it or keeping it destroyed or something. Well, good thing there's these Thunder Zords that I've heard of in Legend or actually they mention it a little bit later. We're jumping around. Where
the Dimension X.
They're like, do they have Zords? It's like, we'll have to find out, which you bet your bottom dollar. If there's a 3, there's Dimension X Zords, baby. I want extreme.
I want Dimension X Zords. I do not want them to just be the Thunder Zords, and that's where they get them from, though.
No. I think you're right about two separate Zords. Things.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll throw another one in there. He knows how to use the Dragon Zord. Yeah. Presumably, he gives it back, but he still has that Shadow Morpher, which has the Dragon coin in it. So maybe it's going to be like Tommy can't morph. Tommy can't control the Dragon Zord. What are we going to do? Don't worry. We got a white suit and a tiger for you, buddy.
all of this, I was like, yeah, bring it on. But before we jump to that formally, so very reminiscent of the Chris Claremont era of X-Men, we get the Turtles using some hologram technology, just intermingling at the juice bar. I like this.
This is not the first time we've seen this, though, in this book. They did it once before.
I didn't remember, but yeah.
I like it as well, but they introduced this trope, I thought earlier this series, if not, then it was the last one, but for sure where some of them came to the juice bar because one of the holograms started not working properly and stuff. And I think you even said the thing about Chris Claremont, because for those that don't know, Chris Claremont wrote X-Men. Nightcrawler looks like a demon. He would wear a hologram so he can go out in public. That's what he's referring to. Yes. And so I also like it, but it is not the first time we've seen it.
Probably wasn't, but it felt fresh.
Okay.
Love this team shot at the end.
The Power Bunga.
Yeah, I really like it.
Power Bunga. Yeah. I also like how the Rangers, who are like super good at everything as a human and are superheroes, are like, man, I miss having those animal powers. It's like, still kind of miss those extra things. Like, even though I'm a pinnacle human that has superpowers, still, Yeah. And they get a little Ernie in there. And this actually, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but Ernie's taking the picture and he says, say, and they say Power Bunga. Now, did he say it or do they say it? But it's one of those things that like, that makes no sense unless he knows that they're Rangers and Turtles, which has always been kind of winked at that maybe Ernie know. But I'm saying in the show, there's a lot of stuff where Ernie's like, does he know? He might know.
Stop it.
But don't you think that's a nice little
There's a simple explanation for that. So on the next page,
that Ernie knows. No, I'm saying I think that's a wink to the fact that Ernie knows who they are. On the next page, I'm so stupid. I didn't realize this was April at first. That's how dumb I am.
I can agree with your statement.
Yeah. Because I'm like, who is that? Karai? And I'm like, wait, yellow. Oh, no, it's April. She's always jumping into danger. Yes,
it looks awesome.
Yeah, it does. And those are figures I would love to have.
I was about to say, lay them on me, Hasbro. I'm here. I'm ready and willing.
They did figures for the first book. I guess the question is, how well did this book sell versus that one? And how well did those figures sell? That'll let us know if we're going to get more. I don't know the research on that at all, but yeah.
Here's the perfect case scenario for you.
Yeah.
If they made just this version of a Casey Ranger as some kind of exclusive, you're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I would get this version, but if I would buy more from this series potentially, but that would be the one I'd most want. You're right.
For your needs, you're like, if they only made the one, that would actually be better for me. Because if they made all of them, I would get all of them.
Yes, that's true. That is absolutely true. But if it was just the battle damaged Casey, yeah, that is the one. Yeah, then done. Yeah.
Did this issue make you want Green Ranger Shredder any more or less?
Not at all. I don't want it. I don't have any issue with Green Ranger Shredder. But again, going back to if I was going to get one figure, I wouldn't get that one. If I was getting the whole set, maybe, but it's not. I like the concept. It works in the story, but it's so close to regular Shredder that it just feels like, it's not different enough. You know what I mean? I like the ones that look super different, like because I have a couple Shredders. I don't need just another Shredder.
So I have a question on this next page.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be Babu?
I had a similar question. I think it is, and I think they drew them that way in other pages. And I mean, it's off model to say the least. But I'm guessing because Finster looks pretty sinister, and Goldar
Finster looks great,
but different and sinister. And Goldar looks different too. Like they all look different. And I think Squat looks the most the same. And I think that is Babu, but they make them look like very different, like thin,
like a bat looking
ears.
creature.
Yeah, very, very different. And I'm trying to remember what they looked like in the earlier issues, but I don't.
I'm gonna see if they're in
they're not in this book.
Angel Grove background fights.
You'd have to go back to an earlier one, but then another minor gripe, but the way this read, where he's talking about like some sort of alliance. He's talking to somebody off screen, and Shredder says, "So I'm proposing an alliance between the Foot Clan, ... Lord Zed." And I think it was supposed to say, "and you, Lord Zed," or "with you, Lord Zed."
I think it's addressing him. It's like, I am proposing an alliance of the Foot Clan, Gazbot. Like, directing that comment to you.
I'm proposing an alliance between the Foot Clan, Alex. And that's the end of the sentence. That's just a weird sentence. I feel like it needed another
Is it weird? Yes. Does it technically work grammatically? I believe so.
It technically works in that it's understandable. I don't know if it's proper grammar. And then, Lord Zed's like, all right, human, I'm listening.
I love this page, by the way.
I like the way they did Zed. I like this is something Dan Moore does a lot, but like the way he does the shine in the visor with the cross hatching.
So cool.
Yeah. And it says the end with a question mark because there's no guarantee of another series, but Ryan Parrott at the very least has said he wants to do another series.
So all I'm asking of Boom Studios, what do you need me to do? Let's make a third. Let's run it back.
Buy all the figures and comics from the first series and buy all the comics from the second series.
I already did that.
You did that. I bought all the comics. I didn't buy the figures, so maybe it's my fault if we don't get one.
I will blame you. Speaking of though,
Yes.
of trilogies, this and seeing Guardians 3 this weekend both gave me very similar good feelings. So it's also why I'm extra biased that I want a third now.
Wait, you saw Guardians already, or are you going to see it?
I already saw it.
Okay, I will be seeing it this weekend, so I haven't seen
Gotcha.
it. But it's funny because I was thinking about how, like, man, there've been so many Guardians movies, but I'm like, no, there was 1 and 2, and then they were in the Infinity movies, and then they showed up in Thor, and then they had a Christmas special. But like, no, we never really did get the third movie yet, did we? Like, and I'm looking forward to it, but it took me a minute to be like, what, was this a 4th one? What? I'm like, no, this is it. Finally, the 3rd one. Yeah, okay. Trying not to say anything. He is.
I think everything you said is how I feel like a lot of people have felt about Mighty Morphin, and Once and Always recently came out. So like how Mighty Morphin's in a lot of stuff,
right?
But then when Mighty Morphin gets its own thing, you're like, I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Same with Volume 3. Spoiler alert, I enjoyed it.
Fair enough. I will be seeing it. I want to see Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to see that new Nicolas Cage Renfeld movie.
Oh yeah.
But Guardians bumped both of those to the back of the line. But none of this has to do with Turtles or Power Rangers or comics. Well,
it doesn't. But long story long, we enjoyed it. Go get it. I'm hoping.
I would say at this point, wait for the trade because we were doing it as it came out. But if you get the trade, usually they'll reprint all the cover.
Speaking of the trade, I'm hoping they do a trilogy, and I'm hoping they're collected in one beautiful hardcover so I can just get that and not like double dip on trades potentially.
I would like that as well, but right now I have a trade for the first series and the individual issues for the second, so I'm already like,
I'm big on hardcover collected editions, but I have been the big dog.
Who me?
You're the Gazbot.
Yeah.
And power up! Power extreme! To the power! Extreme!
Sorry, what'd you say? You might cut out there.
I bet it did.
It didn't. I'm a liar because I can't find the credits. There it is. Found the credits.
My shirt is matching Casey's color.
In real life or in this video flashback?
The video flashback is showing me with Casey's Ranger X Power color thing.
I wore that vest today. I no longer have the Twitch time. That's my story. You like it?
It's way too warm for a vest. That's a no-go for me, dog.
Well, I was in the morning. It was in the early morning, and I took it off later. Goodbye.